Ministers Island, the business plan, really marks the realization of many, many years of efforts on the part, not just of our current board, but of the past board. Can I just ask, how many people here have been part of the past boards? Okay. Well, okay, thank you for participating. The project then started essentially, if you take the beginning of the board structure back in 2004. So we've got quite a long time frame that we've worked with. The plan that we've put together really is a collaborative effort. Our focus has been on protecting and preserving and promoting the cultural heritage and environmental features, the legacy of Ministers Island. And at the same time, we really had to look at this as how do we promote economic development. Okay? I think over the years there's been an effort to restore the buildings, but what we lacked was really some sense of how we could keep this restoration effort going financially. So that was part of our plan. We want to thank the members of the Provincial Department of Tourism, John Ames, Karen Ludwig, and the various federal government departments in terms of their support, their encouragement. I would say it was interesting bringing members of the federal government down to the island. The overwhelming response when they came here and saw this fog enveloping us was, why is there not more being done here? And I don't think that is an unusual response when people actually take the time and experience it. There's that question of why aren't we celebrating this more? Okay. I want to thank Harvey Soller, who is our consultant, and his associates, Dan Glenn and Stan McPherson. They provided sort of the counsel to looking at how we might engage all of the stakeholders in the community. And in particular, I want to thank the members of the current board. I'm getting a lot of credit that isn't well-deserved totally, okay? I really want to thank my colleague, she's down there, Robin Burton has been I kind of piggybacked on Robin's energy. She has been dedicated, tireless, pushing the development of everything you see here. All I did was act as a needle in the backside of some people, okay? In starting all of this, you may have seen the boards that are out there. One of the comments that comes up repeatedly, I guess from the people who are local and who've enjoyed the island, is there's a real concern that when we use the term develop the island, that we're somehow going to take away from the peacefulness and the solitude that exists. People come over here and they enjoy their walks. We reflected on that. It was a challenge kind of balancing all of the various needs of the individuals. So when we look at development, we've tried to really focus on how do we move forward unobtrusively so that any sort of the development aspects that you traditionally think of are really out of sight. And that would be noted in the boards. Anything to do with the accommodations that we're talking about will be out of sight beyond in the forest over here, completely covered, so they will not impede the view of Covenhoven and the estate property. At the same time as we're looking at preserving all of that, we have to say, how do you do all of this and make it financially sustainable? That is a significant challenge. I mean, I don't mean to be crass about it, but we can't simply keep going back to the government and saying we need more money, we need more money. Today's reality is everything has to, in some ways, be self-supporting. And I think we've achieved that in the plan going forward. So We often, or I do anyway, I keep talking about this as a business. I appreciate that many people here see it as a very special place, and maybe the term business doesn't necessarily resonate with you. But going forward, we have to look at those, both the solitude, the peacefulness, the experience that you have historically with how are we going to actually generate revenues to cover the ongoing restoration. Because that's the point. This building is not going to stay like it is right now. Time will wear it down. We've got to generate funds to keep up the overall existence of the place. John has already talked about the island financially. We're looking at something like when it is completed, and people will tend to say, we were going to talk about it's a 3-phase project. It's not a 3-year project. Okay. When it's completed, essentially we'll be looking at 40 to 50 full-time equivalent jobs and approximately 1.3 million in payroll. Now, because we're a nonprofit, we kind of look at that, any surplus we generate, and our accounting firm looks at it and says, potentially you could be looking at $500,000 in surplus, which we then generate back into maintenance of the building. But we also see it as critical to our overall strategy with the board. We started a couple of years ago looking at how do we work the development of the island as part of a collaborative effort with the entire tourism community, rather than seeing it as a property in isolation, seeing it as part of an entire Charlotte County experience. Okay, so we've tried to work in a collaborative fashion with all of the other stakeholders. We got involved in the actual planning process. The major challenge we've had has been what John referred to, really, is how do you create a plan that has simplistic, emotional appeal when it has to cover all of the multifaceted layers that this island represents? I mean, we could just talk about you, but you've had enough talk, right? Okay. No, I'll take that back. You deserve a lot more, okay? The contribution you've made to Canada is really hugely significant. But it's all in a context. It's in a context of people who went before. And we need to balance everything, the many layers that are there, so that it's a story that's dynamic, it keeps growing. So we are looking at what we refer to as a bold business plan. As I say, 3 phases. The number one commercial aspect is the building of accommodations, which are in keeping with the overall architectural structure of the island. The renovation of all the existing buildings, we're looking at using the barn as a cultural performance space, so that once we stabilize the exterior, we're going to focus on generating funds to transform the interior so that we can do more of the great musical events that Jamie Steele has been planning, and just building more and more and giving people actually more access to the upper layers of the barn, which right now are prohibited because of safety issues. The island trails. Locally, this is a real passion for many people, but there's so much more we could do to make the trails accessible and fully capture the essence of the landscape and the seascape that is out there for people to experience. Beach access is proposed in multiple locations. We're looking at production gardens over here at the Gardener's Cottage. There's interest on the part of, say, the Algonquin, that we could produce enough produce to feed the kitchen there. And that's an activity not just dependent on lettuce. We've got enough rabbits to eat the lettuce, but looking at produce that makes a difference. Many of the B&Bs in town are looking for that kind of opportunity as well. You might well notice that we have this issue of tides here. Okay, so we are proposing that we build docking facilities and look at some form of taxi service going back and forward for the times when the tides don't allow full access. Now, we're at a point now where the major challenge is making it happen. Okay, this is the start of a new journey. Implementation is a multi-million-dollar undertaking. And we hear numbers today from Karen. That's for this year, okay? That effort has to keep on developing. We're not saying we're coming back for exactly the same amount every year, but we see ours as being necessary for private individuals, corporations, all the different levels of government to put their heads together and see where can you actually contribute to building the kind of heritage tourism site that is possible in this location. Okay. Our next most important steps, we have two ongoing. One is the recruitment of an executive director to assist us with implementation. We would have to confess that the scope of what we're proposing is, and I don't say this disrespectfully, but it is beyond our board. We are a volunteer board. There's only so many hours we can commit to this. So we have now some resources where we can hire an executive director. Of course, the biggest challenge has been getting the word out there that what the nature of this project is and the kind of leadership that we're looking for from an executive director to drive forward. So that's number one. And number two is we really need to build a national board. We need individuals who can see the contribution of Sir William and the many aspects he has contributed in terms of, well, the railway being one, Confederation, but you start looking at Parks Canada was his initiative, okay? So it's very fitting that we have some funding from that organization. If you tour the house, you'll see many of his contributions. Robin is just working on a room on the upper floor. I don't think it has a number right now, but you'll see in that, go up the stairs and turn right and straight ahead, you can see the many, many contributions that this gentleman contributed to Canada. The most important issue is membership for us locally, okay? When we look at how many people are members of the board, of the overall effort, it really isn't an awful lot. I think we're at about 130. And the population in St. Andrews is a little bit greater than that. Even if it's just a nominal thing you do, I think you really should consider membership as an investment in your future. Okay? The more we can do here, build the tourism, increase the economic development of the entire region, the greater the benefit is to all of us. And I think that's one of the key opportunities. So membership is an opportunity really for you to volunteer, add skills. When you see the kind of plan that we're talking about, think, could I possibly add value here? Is there something where I could contribute a little bit of time and make a huge difference? Okay. If we work together, we can make this one-of-a-kind environmental, heritage, and cultural site a leading, economically sustainable tourism destination for all of New Brunswick and for Canada. Thank you very much.